Welcome to the Life of Being podcast, where we talk about all things life from a healthcare perspective all around the world. I'm your host, Kelly Tan, and in each episode, we'll explore stories, science, and wisdom to help you live well, think deeper, and express life fully. Let's begin. Today we are super excited to have Jack Warburton, who is now back home in the UK. Jack is a UK trained chiropractor who graduated from ACC in 2021 and spent the early years of his career practicing in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. During this time, Jack immersed himself not only in clinical practice, but also in the philosophical foundations of chiropractic, becoming a graduate of the ACP program, the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophy at Sherman College. Now, back in the UK, he is focused on building a practice rooted in connection, proactive health, and the full expression of life, driven by a deep curiosity about what shapes the human experience and how reconnecting with the body can transform the way we live. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Kelly. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, super excited to see where this goes today.
Super excited to dive into your story, as we mentioned. Shall we start by you sharing your story in terms of how you came into chiropractic, why Netherlands, why ACP, and then why did you think that now is the moment to come back home to serve your community?
Yeah, awesome. How did I come into chiropractic? I think I came from a rugby background, and so I played quite high level rugby during my youth, my teen years as well. And the focus was really to be a rugby player. But then I got quite a lot of concussions and things, and realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to be the direction. But through that, I was really lucky and fortunate to go to a boarding school for my last 2 years, and there we had to just work from 7 till 9 every night, and it was just sort of drilled into you a little bit, like this is the mentality. So I was very fortunate that I knew that rugby wasn't going to be the way, and I had this opportunity to really go through my studies. And during that time I saw a chiropractor when I was playing rugby at that school, and I had a back injury. I think it was a L3 disc or something. He said he was quite not how I practice now, but he got me interested in chiropractic. And around the same time, my sister was over in Australia au pairing for two chiropractors, and we went on a family trip out there to stay with them, and they were much more sort of holistic, vitalistic chiropractors, and seeing how they lived, how they thought about life just really resonated with me, and that's when I decided to be a chiropractor.
Why did you choose to go to the Netherlands though, right upon graduating?
Yeah, so I love traveling. I've always done a lot of traveling between school and when I could in at uni as well. And to live in a different country was something that really excited me. I was in a really good opportunity and place to be able to do that straight after uni. I was actually looking at going to Singapore, and the focus was really on Singapore. But I graduated in 2021, which was when COVID was still going around. And Singapore was really tough. They were basically saying 2 years, you won't see your friends, won't see your family. They can't come here, you can't leave. And
Wow.
2 years straight after uni and being that far away was a little bit of a big jump for my first job. So I then was looking around, and the Netherlands seemed to practice chiropractic similarly to Singapore. It was also quite a new chiropractic, quite new there, so it's quite exciting. And so that's how I ended up over in the Netherlands.
Was there
Yeah.
any specific thing you're looking for the practice, or is it mainly the country that you're looking in?
I think it was a bit of both, and it was how how it was being practiced. And I thought there was just a lot more chiropractors practicing more chiropractic how we see it rather than how it was shown to us at uni.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I wanted to be in a higher volume practice because I wanted to get my hands on people. And after clinic where we only saw, I think it was 30 people within a
The
year,
whole
30
year, yeah.
and that was just didn't make sense to me how I could go and go outside. So I need to be in a busy place where I can see a lot of people. And both Singapore and the Netherlands really offered that quite a normal thing. And so that's also what I got, which was great. And I realized quite quickly that the adjustment is important, but as soon as that you're good at that, then it's like, okay, what's next? And it's the communication, it's the confidence in your communication. And that's where the ACP came in as well after that.
Was it something that you always knew since being a student in AECC in terms of the adjustment is important, you want to see more people in terms of practicing your hands-on? Or was it something that was more developed when you're in that environment where they talk about vitalistic, holistic chiropractic?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. I was really fortunate with the group that we had at uni. I went to a uni that was quite mechanistic and really just practicing a type of medicine
Mm-hmm.
without really the means to do that effectively. But I had a lot of good people around me and we all sort of pushed each other into that more vitalistic or philosophical based chiropractic. And also just whether it was going to seminars or just knowing a couple of chiropractors and observing them at uni really helped build that view as well. And then I think that just built as soon as I got into my first clinic, my first practice, because then it was just about getting out, getting to seminars, being around chiropractors that had shared a similar idea and
Mm.
identity. And that being going to seminars frequently really built that as well. Yeah.
How did you know about ACP then, and what pushed you to saying yes to sign that up?
ACP came from two guys. One of them was Travis. I had
Mm.
a good chat with him about it, and he's obviously in the Netherlands doing a lot of really cool stuff out there. So I had a good chat with him about it. And prior to that, I was in Corfu on a family holiday, and I saw
Mm.
Tom Bergson, and so
Mm.
he's practicing out there with Billy. Has a really cool clinic, and I went to view a few times, and he was like, "You should really do the ACP." And we shared a lot of similar mindset and similar views, and I saw how he was really bringing his philosophy into everyday practice in
Mm.
a really cool, fun, quite creative way. And that really interested me. So I was like, okay, it's something that I need to do. And then luckily there was a big group of us that we already knew,
Right.
which created a really nice group of people as well.
Super fun, I think. I mean, it looks like a big commitment. Like, it's a whole year, you do this thing, assignments, you defend your paper, and then but after that, I mean, even in between, you learn so much from the program, and I think that just transform you to thinking a different level.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super important to be, I actually realized quite early on with chiropractic, this is a profession that you will always have to learn in. Learn will
Mm.
never finish. And so the more you sort of invest in yourself, especially in the early years when you haven't got that from uni, which is a topic in itself, but that's where you still have to invest in yourself through for like different education, which is more aligned with your beliefs and your views. Yeah.
100%. What is one thing that you would suggest students in terms of the resources if they'd like to learn more about what chiropractic actually is?
Yeah, I think it's finding like where you're already at the beginning because I was at a seminar once and a student asked, "Oh, what book should I read?" And I think the guy said "The Bigness of the Fellow Within," and I think it's probably a really good book to read, but whether that's the
Yeah,
starting, it can be quite a big leap in that direction. And I think it's a very good book, but it needed some editing as well. I think it could have done with a bit of like an editor behind it. And so I think, you have different books. The blue books are way more accessible, I find. So Strauss's stuff. But then I really liked Fred Barge when I was at school. I found he wrote really well and it was
mm,
accessible. The books that he had was good. So I think books, but then getting around people. That was my biggest thing is building your network, building your like chiropractic is a small profession, so and people are so willing to help. And
mm,
that was something that I've found mostly one of my biggest things that I got from the ACP is just recognizing how easy it is to just reach out to someone and they might be a big fish in your head, but they're still just wanting to help and they're still wanting to build the profession along. So just send that email, send that message, and that's an easy way to get to use people's understanding as a way to build yourself.
Did you had to reach out to people during
Yeah,
these?
yeah, I had some really good chats with Chris Ramsey.
Mm,
He would be a really cool person to get on the pod as well. He knows a lot of stuff. And he's a nice Kiwi, so he's got a good sense of humor with it as well. Him, I spoke to some Jack as well from the Sherman College, and so just
mm,
reaching out and also just sending messages to people saying, what do you think about my thought process for this or something? So,
Was it more for developing your thesis in a way?
yeah.
Who's your mentor again? Was it Jack Burla.
Yeah, Jack
Was it?
Bro. Yeah,
Okay. Oh wow,
yeah,
that's super cool. Super, super
yeah.
cool. What is one thing that you learn coming out from ACP other than the one that you mentioned? So like we've went through a whole year of that. What is one thing that you learned that changed your perspective?
I think the biggest perspective and something that I sort of tussled with my thesis as well was how chiropractic philosophy is being shown more in the sort of quantum physics, quantum mechanics
Mm,
way. And so science is sort of catching up with the philosophy. And I think it's a really exciting time to be a chiropractor, but it's also, we need to be using these tools to access that might be more accessible for the public as well. You know, can we link the sort of scientific view with our philosophical view, and building that relationship between the two, and actually seeing the world as more interconnected rather than how it has been as everything in parts. And
mm.
that's been quite an interesting, fun thing for me to notice and to start to buy into a lot more as well.
What was your thesis about? And then what was your outcome in learning and researching all those things? What is one thing that you would like to say or advise so that people can like grasp what do you mean by everything is interconnected, all this different organization that you have?
Yeah, I think that's something that it can feel very abstract to a lot of
Mm,
people, and
mm,
so that's something that still working towards is how you can break that down and to make it a lot more simple for the majority of people, or just ways that are more easy to sort of to understand and to see in life as well, I think. So my thesis was generally about, I was interested in how results come about and what the sort of metaphysics, so sort of above just an adjusted thrust, how that can create or dictate the level of results we experience. So results for me is you have both results in like a subjective lived experience, and that can be very broad. And I think it's really talking to the broadness of results rather than just getting out of pain or having no symptoms. We really
mm,
need to be talking about a bigger picture of what the lived experience is of people being under chiropractic care. And that's, I think, what our clients are interested in, but it's also what we need to be talking about, because objectively we can have changes, but I think if people aren't living that experience of the objective changes, then we're not going to grow in the way that we need to. That's my personal opinion. And with that, I think it's about how people talk about intention as being that extra something, but
mm,
I think you also need attention as well. And so having attention to something is by building your ability to give that service or to give that care.
mm,
You have to attend to that as well. And that's really what I got out of it. And I spoke a bit about authenticity and what that meant and how it's a process to get towards that. And I think authenticity, certainty, they can sort of come hand in hand or be a bit synonymous. And so that process is a process of individuation. You have to be able to take all of this information in, all of whether that's philosophy, whether that's like your belief in the science of it or whatever it is, you have to individuate that in a way that makes sense for you, and you can give that in a way that's clear, it's congruent,
mm.
both through the physical practice and also your beliefs. And that's something that what I came to. So the thesis was really an exploration rather than this is what it is, this is my
Mm.
outcome, how I found it. It was a start of an exploration into what it means to be a chiropractor, I suppose, and how that is a process of realizing what this means in your own views as well.
Do you felt like after exploring this, it opens up more like can holes and like you like delve deeper into
Yeah, that was a
yeah.
big part of the thesis, was actually realizing when, okay, I could just go on this forever without actually
Yeah.
writing. And so at certain points, I was, like I was saying, diving into the quantum mechanics and realizing I'm not the right person to be diving into that, because it's an interesting place that's like Pandora's box. Once you open that,
Mm.
it's interesting. But the metaphysics and quantum physics, there's so much similarities there, and so it's hard not to sort of dive into that direction. So yeah, at a certain point for the thesis, I had to sort of say, okay, this is where we're going to stop. But like I say, I think that's just something that will only grow and develop
Yes.
over time. And it was really a springboard, the thesis, to
Mm.
better understanding of what my views are and how I think that can reflect in practice as well.
Was there any changes in terms of your philosophical understanding in chiropractic in the results that you mentioned, or even in presenting the service that you offer?
Yeah, I think, the like results is such a word that people will have completely different meanings for,
Mm,
depending on who you ask. And so I look at chiropractic now as a results being a response more than actually like a
mm,
specific outcome.
mm-hmm,
Um, because the more we see the world as very open-ended and going in very different directions, we can't in a way dictate the results or the outcomes, but we can
mm,
expect a certain response in some way. And so that expectation becomes important. And so
mm,
I think sometimes we can sort of put a limit on our expectations, especially in someone else. If they come with us in a certain thing, maybe we have an expectation of they can get this percentage change in whatever way. If we can expand that expectation, then we can also expand the response as
mm.
well.
So in a way, like if they don't expect that to happen, they wouldn't link that to whatever you've just done or whatever you've just helped them
Exactly.
understand too.
Yeah. And so I think, I think belief is a really big, important aspect of understanding. And I think if we look at it completely through a principled way, we can often sort of put belief on to the side. Whereas you look at any good sport team, any successful people, belief
Mm,
is an important aspect of that. They have to believe that they can achieve this and I think that that's the same in health as well. If people
mm.
don't believe that they can get to where they want to be, then it's a harder process, and that's where that subjective experience is an important part of it.
What if someone is a skeptic? Do you think that that will change in terms of how their health trajectory coming to see chiropractor
I
who
think
just go to
that
CBS?
Yeah, I think it can in the beginning, but it is part of our job to educate. And I think
Mm,
that's really
mm,
important.
mm,
And it's recognizing where they are. And if they are a skeptic, it's just that slow educational process will
mm,
help as well. And I think if people don't educate, then maybe the results are less or the response is less. So I think the education there is a really important part of that
mm.
for them to be able to see and make a judgment for themselves. Okay, this is quite logical, or this makes sense. I can see that in other areas in my life. Why wouldn't this work in this case?
Because sometimes people have limiting beliefs in terms of how much better
Yeah,
they can be, isn't it? And then if they don't believe they can do it, they wouldn't like put in the effort to, I don't know, drink
yeah,
water or like movement or anything.
yeah. And I think the mind is a really powerful thing. And
Mm,
people say it's not really part of chiropractic, but I disagree with that because it's we did the normal complete cycle in the ACP, and
mm,
the mind is there. And I think that's where innate functions. And so it's a really important part. And I think we can also influence
mm.
that aspect through the adjustment as well. And that's where more the metaphysical process comes in.
What is one thing that you wish your clients or your practice members understand, or even just people in general? What is one thing that you would hope that they understand?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the simplicity of health, like health can be really simple. And I think especially nowadays in like health, the wellness industry has sort of had this big boom, and
Mm,
they make it really hard. Like it doesn't need to be as hard as you need to go to this class or this is going to sort you out, right? And we can always look outside, but actually when you come into yourself and that ADIO principles, that's what's going to get the best response, the best results. And it's in that case, it's then quite simple. We can make it difficult. We can put all these fancy things on it, but at the end of the day, your body is always wanting to heal, is wanting to function well, and that's where we should focus our attention on.
is that something that you usually advise your clients in their first few visits, or is it just you? Do you talk about that even when you're educating your clients with table talk, or?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm in a nice place where I'm not practicing at the nice place that I'm not practicing. I mean that I have the time to put a lot of attention into what do I want my clients to understand at what times,
Mm,
and systems and procedures that will help us get to that, and that's going to help build a strong foundation to go
mm,
where we want to go, both in a relationship with a client, but also in the practice as well. And so it's definitely something that I have spoken about and will speak about. It's just doing it in the right way that they can see that as well, and not
mm,
chucking too much on them too soon. That they're
mm.
so who's this guy? It's like, no, this is a simple.
Like, what are you
This,
talking about?
yeah, yeah. And but like I think everyone gets it. And you know, in the health talk or in our first couple of visits, that is something that we want to have an agreement on, is that
Mm.
yeah, you're in the right environment, of course your body will function well. And in if your body's functioning well, it's going to do its best job to heal or for you to get the response that you need.
What is your greatest advice that you received in your career that's changed your trajectory?
My greatest advice, I think. So I've done a bit of stuff with demartini,
Mm.
and I think what he's doing is really cool because he was a chiropractor, and now he's gone off and sort of given the chiropractic principles through different means. But he's spoke a lot about whenever there's a high moment, you have like an equal and opposite low moment, and
Mm.
whenever you have a low moment, you have an equal and opposite high moment, and in the middle of that, you have fulfillment. And so it's when something like super good happens, you can enjoy it, but also like it's just a moment, and there's no point getting too high or too low with things. And that sort of led into what he said, and my coach we spoke about as well said like we were talking about success, and sometimes it's a challenge, and if you want to be masterful, then it's a process, and it's sometimes quite a difficult process.
Mm.
So we sort of broke it down to success is difficult, but the easy way out is also just as challenging because you can't live the life that you want to live. You don't have
Mm.
the moments of fulfillment with others
Mm.
because you have to work towards that. So success is difficult, but easy is actually harder in the long term. And that's something that I sort of like to think about at times as well.
That's deep.
Yeah, and I think you can link it to anything, right? Like same with health. Like the easy way
Mm.
out of health is just to take a bit of paracetamol and forget about it. But that gets harder, and it gets way harder down the road if we're much more reactive in those things. Whereas if we realize that things are a process, and sometimes going to be a really challenging process, is recognizing that early will really help in those difficult moments.
So what does success means to you then, Jack?
Success to me is being able to have a life where I can give a lot to others. And that means in practice, that means in my personal life, and just being able to do the things that I love to do with the people that I
Mm.
love. You know, I have a lot of people around me that I really love to be around. And that's a really important part of success for me. And
Mm.
then being able to change the situation of health, that's the goal. And that would be a successful goal, is to sort of rebrand health in the direction that we want it to go as chiropractors. Yeah, that would be a successful experience.
In an ideal world, how does chiropractic look to you?
Yeah. Ideal world is just having holistic, principle, vitalistic, however you want to say it.
Mm.
True, true chiropractic, accessible to everyone. That would be the goal. And for me, that is the ideal. There is that people use chiropractic as a pre-thought or a first thought rather than the
Mm.
afterthought. And that goes more into sort of like generational chiropractic care so that the body is functioning at the best it can in the society. I think it makes society look a lot better.
Like a BJ's utopia. The world will be a better place.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I don't think chiropractic is the one and only, and it's gonna take people out of prison and all that sort of things. But
Um,
I do think it's a good foundation
mm.
to build on to other things. And I think, you know, we should be more collaborative rather than sort of setting people apart and like,
Mm.
okay, chiropractors do this. If you want to do anything else, then don't talk to me about it. But it's more about that collaboration, I think is important.
Mm.
Is okay, I'm a really good chiropractor. I know another really good chiropractor down the road that might better suit you.
Mm.
Or I know a really good dietitian, physio, whatever that is. And that collaboration should be the way that we're moving towards as well. Because that also works for how I see the world. Life is we're somehow connected on a however big basis you want to see. And so we should be working more as a community, more collaborative as well.
Really good there. Now that brings us to, well, like, when do you think, or why do you think that now is the best time for you? You've had enough of living abroad, now back home and serving your community.
Yeah, so moved back in January this year, and it was quite a hard move. I had a
Mm.
really great group of people over in the Netherlands and felt very lucky with the life that I'd built there in the 5 years I was there. But I knew I wanted to open my own practice, and I've had this for probably a couple of years now of really feeling like I was in the right place to do so. Just with what we've spoken about already, I feel like I'd sort of created a bit of an idea of how I wanted my style of chiropractic to be. I'd done the work to feel comfortable and confident in doing that. And I think the ACP was the biggest part of that. And it was one of the main reasons why I went into the ACP, is for that confidence and certainty. And so when I finished that, I was like, okay, let's go. We're ready. And so I also want to, I have strong foundations here with my family, with my girlfriend's here. We've got great friends here as well. And so for where I see the practice going, it's important that we have strong foundations. And so that was important for me, and being able to speak English again is also nice. And so my Dutch was okay, but sometimes communicating the way I wanted to is not as easy as I would have liked it to be. And so yeah, I'm looking at putting, like I say, what we spoke about, getting those systems, procedures in place now. I'm back home with my parents, so saving a bit of money, and that helps. We've got plenty of time to be setting all those foundations in place. And where I want the practice to go to is something that I'm aware of myself, and I think people, you see it in other ways, is that people are really craving connection and human experience now. The rise of technology and AI and all that sort of stuff, people are really wanting human connection again. And so I think my goal of the practice is give great chiropractic care and build the systems in place to deliver that, but also to recognize that I think community is a really important thing. And I think chiropractic is in a really great place to be able to build that momentum in a broader thing rather than just on a patient-to-patient basis.
It's super exciting. Super exciting for where you're heading towards and what you're building, and going back home, serving the community with principled philosophical chiropractic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting. It's a little bit daunting, but that's why you go into it, because I think it's a nice new challenge, business and running a business, and finding that balance between, giving a service, but also recognizing that chiropractic is a very valuable service as well. And we have a really valuable thing to offer people, and people really need it now. And so I think that makes me a lot more comfortable with opening a business that I know is valuable to the community. That definitely helps. But yeah, it's about how can we make it an exciting place to be, a creative place to be, and that's the next exciting thing to work towards, I think. Yeah.
We're coming towards the end of our conversation, and I know that we're just scratching the surface in terms of your understanding and your thinking. Where would be the best place to find you yourself, Jack?
It would be through social media. I'm on, anyone who wants to chat, obviously just reach out to my Facebook or Instagram. It's just Jack Warburton. My Instagram is jackwarbs97, but I will have a Instagram for my practice coming out. It's probably going to be the Hive Chiropractic, and so once we have that, I will send it to you.
Yeah, just send me your link, your website, your social media pages. We'll add it into the description below, and once this episode is up, we will probably do some progress with knowing your location and everything, so that'll be a really good thing to add into, so that people can reach out and talk about chiropractic with you.
Awesome. Yeah, it will be in Bristol, and the practice would be called the Hive Chiropractic. I'm just working on how that is wrote out in the Instagram.
Okay. That was super exciting. Thank you so much for your time, Jack, and really looking forward to what you're building yourself.
Thank you, Kelly, and thanks for doing this podcast. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see who.
Yeah. Take good care of yourself, and we will catch up real soon with yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Life of Being podcast. Let us know what is your one key takeaway from this episode. And if this conversation inspired you, share it with a friend who might find it helpful today. Until next time, take care of your health and take care of your being.